Deepak, is it okay? So I will start. Is it live on your side? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We have a very, very special roundtable discussion. Before I go further, I just want to share a couple of things with you. My name is Sivam Velayudam, and I am the founder and president at Voice of Men 360. Again, welcome to our special roundtable discussion on end homelessness. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020, and it is based in London, Ontario, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help, support, and overcome men and boys' life challenges. We are part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 25 years, and so far, 95 countries around the world joined together and doing various activities regularly. IMD follows 6 pillars, which is the overall the well-being of boys and men. We follow in the same footsteps. Why do we need a city-wide march on homelessness, or even roundtable discussion on homelessness issue? People may have questions, of course, why Voice of Men 360 wants to be involved in homelessness issues and do a city-wide march. Our primary focus is the well-being of men and boys. The statistics are showing 76% of homeless are men around the world. This number is on the rise, especially in cities like London, Toronto, Vancouver, and other cities across Canada. We believe it is time to speak up, voice out about the homelessness issue. How is this affecting every one of us directly and indirectly? Creating awareness is the first thing and the most important, not only for men and boys, but also we want to speak up and support every gender who is facing challenges with this homelessness issue across Canada and around the world. Before I introduce our special guest or even a special host for today's show, I would like to give you a disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith toward peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed today's discussion are those of our speakers and do not represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns today's episode or discussion or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Like I said, we have a special guest, of course, and a host, Deepak Bidwai. He's a reporter for the local journalism initiative at Simcoe County Media. For more than 2 years, he has been covering Barrie and Simcoe County, focusing on civic issues such as housing, drug addiction, mental health, indigenous matters, and other related topics. Welcome, Deepak. Take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sivam. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Welcome. This is Deepak, and today we are going to talk about the burning issue in Canada right now, which is housing crisis, especially the homelessness issue. And before introducing my guest panelist today, just briefly about the homelessness crisis in Canada. So there are a lot of numbers, official numbers, unofficial numbers about the homelessness. How many homelessness people in Canada? So the official number is around 250,000. 250,000 people homeless. But according to a researcher, Cheryl Farouk, who is a researcher at Lawson Health Research Institute, this number could be as much as 3 times. So there is always this gap between the official figures and unofficial figures. So the reality is very different from that is portrayed by the government. So that's why today we have 3 community leaders who work on the ground with homeless population. Uh, my first guest is Christine Nayler. She's a co-founder of Ryan's Hope. Christine Nayler is a fierce advocate for homelessness and mental health issue. She and her husband started Ryan's Hope in memory of their son Ryan, who died of toxic drug poisoning. My second guest is Stephen Douris, who is the advocate for men's right, and those are most vulnerable among us. Stephen himself was homeless for a short while, and that is what ignited his passion for helping those in need. He works for the local food banks as well as uh, soup kitchen, and he provides various services. And my third guest is Angela Voss. Angela Voss is the founder of Jordan's Life, which she started in memory of her son. And Angela is also a fierce advocate for homelessness issues, um, and the solutions. So just give another brief. So when we are talking about the number 600,000 people across Canada, and then we have Christine Nayler, who has been working in Barrie. And Barrie, according to 2022 numbers, has around uh, more than 700. Simcoe County has more than 700 homeless people, and that number is now believed to be upward of 1,000. Last year in May, Barrie City Council passed a bylaw, which was called bylaw motion to address chronic homelessness, but that bylaw came under huge criticism because it proposed huge fines up to $100,000 for people who would help homeless people with food and other essentials. So at that time, Christine started protesting outside Barrie City Hall in a tent. Angela also joined her, and that became a nationwide movement. Toronto Star and other national media took a notice, and that led to Barrie City Council uh, going back on those proposed law. And recently, Angela has uh, successfully advocated in Hamilton to to convert a parking lot into affordable housing project. Everyone, welcome to the show. And first, we let's get started. I would just few if each panelist can just introduce themselves quickly, and then we can get started. Christine, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Christine Nayler, and I am the co-founder and director of Ryan's Hope. So as Deepak said, it's an organization that my husband and I started in memory of our son, Ryan. Ryan was a member of this community. He lived with mental illness, and he self-medicated with street drugs because pharmaceutical medications didn't work. And unfortunately, we lost Ryan in 2020 to a toxic drug poisoning. And we tried for 8 years while Ryan was here to get him the supports and help he needed. And what we found that there was a lot of supports available to people struggling with mental health and substance use issues and experiencing homelessness on paper. But when people go to try to access those services, they actually aren't really there. And so that's what inspired us and who Ryan was as a person to start Ryan's Hope. Our mission is to advocate for and support people living with mental illness, substance use issues, and experiencing homelessness. We do that through our advocacy work, which is like participating in discussions like this. And we also do direct service in our community. So boots on the ground support to people that are living homeless on our streets. And we do street outreach, we do encampment support, we have a free laundry program. So on a daily basis, we are interacting with the most vulnerable people in our community, those that are unhoused and are facing a lot of stigma and hate by other community members and by our local politicians as well. So that's me.
Stephen, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Stephen Douris. I live in the Cornwall area, SDNG's area of Cornwall. And as mentioned in my bio before, I was once homeless for a very short period, but all the same, I was homeless. And I started, I'm going to say about 4 years ago, pushing to get something done for our less fortunate, not only the homeless, but the ones that could not eat on a regular basis and stuff as that. Then my full challenge started to become more and more for our homeless people, especially coming up to last winter. We wanted to make sure they were off the streets. And I have to say that our city council in Cornwall and the mayor's people, there's a mayor's task force on homelessness here in Cornwall, which has done amazing work. And it's not to say we have not had any pushback. I think in anything you do, you're going to have pushback. But they have done miracles here. This winter, if I am not mistaken, there was only 2 people that were not housed, and it was through their choice not to be housed. And now we're working on another project to turn this transitional housing into more transitional housing and keeping the people off the street. We are trying to stay away from the encampments, but we have homeless people that we don't know are homeless because there's people sleeping on people's sofas or friends' backyards or whatever. But the ones that we know about in the encampments, we're taking special care of them right now. And I'm proud of what has been done by the people here in Cornwall SDNG. I'm glad to be part of it.
Angela.
Hi, everybody. I am Angela Voss, and I started all of this because my son Jordan died at Central East Correctional Center, June 1st of 2020. So activated by trauma and grief, I started advocating and reaching out to other moms. I found beautiful people like Christine Nayler, and we've done a lot of work together. I found her right after Ryan had passed away. And I focused a lot of my advocacy efforts on her inspiration and by donating to her to see where she went to. And I'm super proud of how far they grew and how much support that they got throughout their community. It was like super impressive and rewarding to be part of everything that she invites me to. So that started the homeless avenue for me. Before it was more incarcerated people and grief, but now I have recognized that there is a long-term thing with mental health, poverty, and the traumas that it causes. So I've included many new areas in advocacy, but I think that they're all co-related and necessary for all of us.
Yeah, this is very unique areas each of the guests addresses, but now we have come to realize that a lot of causes behind homelessness, people are very different. There are mental health issues, living wage issues, there are discrimination, so various reasons we find behind homelessness. So I just want to start start with the unique challenges. Each of you are from different cities, so what unique challenges you see in your city when it comes to homelessness? Stephen, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Well, I think one of the challenges is getting the proper buildings and getting past the blowback from the citizens, because a lot of people look at our homeless as no good people, as people that don't really matter. And so you get the blowback coming by saying, not in our backyard. We don't want these people living near us. We don't want them near our children, And I was at an event about a month and a half ago, and it's exactly what they were saying, not in my backyard, not my backyard. Well, it's in everybody's backyard. It's not just one neighborhood. It's everybody's neighborhood. There's homelessness. And I think what got me the most with everything is they're saying, these people are pedophiles, rapists, drug dealers, and, like so much. And when you look at it, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We don't know who on any particular street in any city in Canada is being abused or living with drug addicts or, just living the life that they're calling the homeless are living. The only reason they talk about the homeless is because they're visible. And everywhere they want them to be invisible. They don't want to see the homeless because it brings down their neighborhood, their posh neighborhoods. Well, you know what? No matter how much posh of a house you're living in, you look around, there is drugs, there is pedophilia, there's all kinds of things. It's not just, and I get really angry because since we started our project to get our homeless off the streets, I've met so many of them. And what I really love is when they come up and after they get to know you, come up and give you a hug or you give them a hug and they say, thank you. It's been a long time since I had one. And for me, I give every one of them a hug if they ask for it because they're human. And I think what we've forgotten in our great society is that everybody is human. And it's a tragedy that so many people get onto to drugs. I have a lot of friends that succumb to it also. But it's not only the drugs. I was homeless. I stopped drinking when I was 20. I smoked pot 4 times in my whole life. I'm 75 years old. So that's 4 times in 75. That's once every 18 years or so. So it's like, and I was homeless. Why? Because of circumstances. Not everybody is homeless because they're drug addicts. Not everybody's homeless because they're, I don't know. I went through a major burnout. I've lost over $1 million in one fell swoop and ended up sleeping in the back of a car from somebody who owned 6 houses at one point to sleeping in a car. It's like one hell of a tumble. And so we have to look, we don't know the circumstances people are out there. All we got to do is give them love, give them affection, and tell them that they are wanted and they are worthy of our love. Everyone is worthy of our love.
Yeah, then even my experience, as a reporter talking with housing advocate, I talked to Jennifer Van Gennep, who lives in Barrie. She's a housing advocate, and she mentioned how hard it is once you are on the street, even for a day, and it's cold out there. You are scared of your stuff, being stolen. So that's attracts, that what makes you use drugs, because you're on the street, it's cold all the time, you are afraid of sleeping, getting robbed or being attacked. And that's the reason she said, one of the primary reason people you start using drugs is because they are homeless. It's not the other way around. It's not because they are using drugs. Of course there is a small percentage of that, but majority of people who end up using drugs are homeless. And to cope up with the trauma and that situation, how they become drug addicts. So Angela, in your experiences, you just had a successful campaign in Hamilton. So what was your experience, the unique challenges that Hamilton had when it comes to homelessness?
Well, the temperature is one of the things. I mean, the weather, we went through 2 to 3 tents each person because the weather would just destroy them, right? The weather, I mean, it's just freezing cold. Your mental health breaks down. You're not feeling safe. You're exposed to every element. Luckily, we did have a really good network of people, and I felt like we were providing like the best of safety that we possibly could by looking out for each other. And we did well. Up to the end was like 84 people though, and it got to the point of being a little precarious. But again, there was a lot of respect amongst us, and some of the new ones that came along, there wasn't. And again, that's where things get precarious with every camp, right? As new people come in and new people go out, there's thefts and thieving, and you don't know exactly where things are and where there's going. And the way that encampments are actually set up, as per city regulation, they would have even more of that, because we had it so that our doors were all facing each other. The city only allows 4 people to group together and their backs are all in to each other. So they're more susceptible for a lot of other dangers as well in that environment. And not only that, but your physical health is breaking down. Like 2.5 weeks later, and my skin is still starting to recover. My mental health, there's traumatic moments. I mean, and not traumatic to anybody else's fault, but you put that many people with different mental health conditions, developmentally disabled, physically disabled, and then substance use and alcohol use in one environment. And yeah, we have had conflicts, but nothing ever to the point of not being resolvable. And I think the environment we created was great, because there was that de-escalation and, hey, we are family and let's work together and stuff. But out there in their encampments, they don't have anybody to be there and to respond to those things. So those small escalations can de-escalate extremely fast and they become dangerous. But then they don't have food to go to the kitchen and, a Band-Aid when they needed it, or, supplies of any sort. So, I mean, out there, they're exposed to even more than what they would have at our camp. We were very fortunate with a very amazing community that came together with every time I called out and said we needed something, they provided. So in those encampments, they can't just call it to the community and say, hey, I need some funding, I need coffee, I need, somebody to stop by with oatmeal, we're out of lunch materials, those kinds of things. They had the gratitude of having those things while I was there. But today and every other day, they don't have that support. And that's what I'm kind of advocating for, is if I could do it as one person, then I think we could probably do it across cities as a temporary solution until we actually build home. Because let's face it, we're 72,000 people beyond, as per the GTA homes and constructions. That's personnel to build homes. 72,000 we just don't have, right? We can't just make workers. And the government has made initiatives to make these trades a little faster, as they did with nurses and PSWs. But again, those things are going to take a long time to really initiate. And by that point in time, we already have an escalated population. We already have more rent evictions. But luckily in our city, they have settled some of that down by saying they have to have justifiable reasons for those rent evictions now, which will slow it down a little bit, but still the building hasn't happened yet. Sorry, very long rant.
No, that was very, very interesting point that you made about the struggles of the homelessness, at the same time how community came together. So because that's not every time people who are housed like us get to see what is really going on, unless somebody stands up to the system and says we are not going to back down until those changes were made in your case. it was the parking lot, that you wanted to have as the project for the affordable housing. And Christine, you have been doing advocacy and outreach work in Barrie, for a number of years. So in your experience, how Barrie's situation is unique when it comes to the challenges facing homelessness?
Yeah. So I think that we think that everything is unique in our city because we're just seeing it because there's a picture that's painted of like, the problem's not that bad, in the media and with the government and so we think that we're the facing this unique crisis that's worse than everywhere else. And in reality, it's not. I had the opportunity to go and spend a night at in Hamilton with Angela and sitting around the campfire and talking to some of the people that were unhoused in Hamilton and camping there and hearing their stories and how they ended up where they were not unique. It sounded very similar to stories of the people that we've been supporting here in Barrie for the last 3.5 years. And it was just like, and I'm talking to other home housing and homelessness advocates that have boots on the ground in other communities, that they're sharing similar stories. So this is a crisis that is across the country. It's across the province in every city, big and small. Like rural communities are not immune to these issues as well. And so we need to be aware that it's not unique, but there are unique circumstances in each community. Ours is we have a terrible conservative council and just the attitudes like of the people that live here. There's a lot of NIMBYism. There's a lot of us and them type of attitudes towards people that use drugs, people that are homeless. And so that's been a big challenge for us. What Stephen's saying about like having such a supportive council, we can only dream of that here in Barrie, and maybe one day we'll have that, but we don't have that right now. Like last year, our council tried to make it illegal for us to help homeless people in the middle of a housing crisis. Like, how crazy is that? But we did. We stood our ground, and I said, if I can't stop this from happening, at least I'm going to shame them for doing this. And so I went out to City Hall and just decided I was going to camp out there and put the call out. And thankfully, my awesome warrior friend Angela came to camp out with me, and some other people that were housed, some passionate advocates, and we invited our unsheltered friends to bring their tents from wherever they were staying to come out of their encampments and wherever they were and to camp out with us at City Hall. And it was a beautiful community building experience. I've been supporting these people and doing street outreach for 3 years, but to be able to spend a few nights camping out, sleeping on the cement with them, and having a little taste of the reality that they go through on a daily basis, it was humbling, and I think it made us connect in a different way than we would have been able to if we hadn't shared that experience together. But the community also came out to support us. Not everyone was able to come and camp out with us, but they had jobs and families and stuff. But they brought us food. Like we weren't in need of food and supplies whenever we asked for something. It just magically showed up at City Hall from the beautiful people in the community. So we do have a lot of people that are very NIMBY like, not in my backyard, and us and them. But we also have, through Ryan's Hope, built such a beautiful community of love. And there's a lot of people that want to help, but they don't know how to help. And if you give them a way to, they will answer the call.
Yeah, and I was there, covering the protest after last year's policies, and one of the experiences was the power supply outside the city hall, city hall being cut down, and we still don't know the reason why it was cut down. Sorry, Angela, you were saying something?
I was just saying one of the other challenges is just if you are homeless, like when I was there, I had things supplied to me from the community. But when you're homeless, you have to go out for breakfast. You have to go out and find your lunch, dinner, find a place to possibly have a shower within hours, whether there's a warming center, whether there's not, whether there's a shelter bed, whether there's not. And when you leave your stuff in the encampment, you're now risking losing everything unless you're capable of taking it all with you. And then even your shelter might be gone when you get back. So, I mean, every single step of being homeless is hard. It's not just the sleeping overnight in the bitter cold, but it's all of it. It's trying to sleep with one eye open to protect your stuff and just to keep everything with you so that tomorrow you have a chance.
Yeah, so we talked about the problems different cities have when it comes to homelessness, but are there any solutions that you have seen working out, or are you, in your experience, that solution that would work? You want to start us off, Christine?
So in our community, honestly, I haven't seen a lot of solutions that are working to address homelessness in our community. In the time that we've been doing it, we've seen more and more people coming into homelessness on a weekly basis. When we're doing street outreach, there's new people that are newly homeless, and that's really, really, it's scary and it's disheartening. And I mean, there are some people that are working on solutions the best they can, but it's not enough and it's not fast enough. And it doesn't really meet the needs of the people that are truly the most vulnerable and most needing the program. I mean, we've had a few supportive housing communities, buildings like that have been built, and that's great and that's helpful. And we need like 1,000 times more of them. We need so much supportive housing, because we can't just get someone an apartment, even if we're able to get someone an apartment or a room somewhere and check up a box. Okay, this person's good now. They're housed, because we've seen the cycle, and in 6 months we'll see that person back on the street again, because people that have been chronically homeless, they need supports. There's a reason that they became homeless in the first place, if it's not related to financial, and they need supports, and we can't just get them housed and say goodbye, you're on your own now. We need to keep supporting them. We need to help them to be able to maintain that housing and keep that housing. So I think that that's a really big thing that we need in our community, is more supportive housing communities.
Stephen, what has been your experience when it comes to solution? What works?
Well, for us, what has happened is we opened up. Actually, it was December 18th is when we moved. I think it was December 18th when we moved the first people into the transitional housing that we have. And when we moved everybody finally in, I think at the beginning there was 22 that came into that one building. All the things were put in place that we would have. All the services that the people need would be coming to the manor, to the Parisian manor, to help these people get themselves established, get themselves an address. And it's what happens so many times when the people are homeless. They don't have an address, so they're not able to get services. And without services, all you're going to do is, like Christine says, you're going to go so far, and you're going to be back on the street. So we were trying to be proactive and getting all the services that are available for our homeless people there to help them get through the paperwork. And there's a ton of paperwork these people have to do. And when your mind is not in the right place to do paperwork, you're not interested or not capable. Never not interested. You're not capable of doing it on your own. So we had people go in from the Canadian Mental Health Association, from the Housing Corporation in Cornwall, all these people went in and sat with them. And one of the women that I deal with on a almost daily basis now, she told me last week, she says, I can't wait because as of next week, she says, I start to get ODSP. She says something she couldn't get because she didn't have an address. And she was a late one going into this manner because what we did, what was set up was there was 22 rooms, and whatever it was in that room belonged to the person that got the room. So if once they got their ODSP or Ontario Works or whatever funding they could get and could find an apartment or a house of their own, a place to live on their own, they could move out, but they took everything with them so that they were not starting on the ground floor again. They had something to start with. And then we just moved new stuff in. And what we're finding, it is working. And like I say, with this woman that I deal with on a regular basis, she's beyond herself. She said it's been 7 years since she could actually say she's going to have something in her hand, something viable that she's going to be able to buy proper food, buy proper stuff. And what we did is we have the food bank here in Cornwall, the Agape Center, and we feed all the homeless at the Agape, or whoever wants to go there. And also, when they opened up, they get their monthly allotment of food to keep them going, but they're also allowed to go to the food bank. And also, we're giving them all the supports that we can give, physically, emotionally. We're there trying to give them everything that we're not going to see them back on the streets in 2, 3, 4 months. We want them to rise up, not lay down. They got to get up. They got to get out. They got to work. And one of the reasons they did not allow them to eat at the manor, like have a kitchen of their own, was so that they would have to go out and socialize. That they were not going to be just stuck in a room by themselves. They have to go out and socialize, and it keeps them moving. Because if we don't socialize, we just become sedentary, stay there, we're dead. We're not dead, but we're not doing anything for ourselves. So this way we keep them moving. And I have to say it's a success. We are very, very successful, and I'm proud of what we've done so far. And I want to keep it going. I've only just begun.
Angela, I know you are passionate about tiny homes and how they can solve the homelessness crisis. So I don't know, is that you look solution or anything else that you have seen that has become successful, worked out when it comes to solving homelessness?
Well, in our township, like the mayor did end up vetoing that vote to say yes to tiny homes in Stony Creek, but there's still a lot of pushback from the community in Stony Creek and a lot of NIMBYism. And there's just always going to be something in every project for Hamilton. But in the experiences that I've been watching through Kitchener and their tiny home project, and I've gone to evaluate St. Catharines as well, and they look like great units. I mean, they're extremely tiny, and I would think that we could do a smidge bit better, but they are out of the cold and they do have the accommodations for people, and I think that's a great start. Some of the tiny home projects I've seen that are low income options for people to buy and stuff are absolutely beautiful and a great way to start in the market instead of townhouses and condo fees and all those kinds of things for first-time home owners. But I do worry about the private sectors of everything, like anything like the Cartwell industries for long-term care and different industries for mental health. We've seen some of those problems exacerbate, especially during COVID when we had to get our military to go into long-term care facilities to care for our seniors because they just could not keep up with the demand of what was going on. So I do think that there needs to be protocols in place, especially for places that'll be open with, and keeping in mind for people too, don't just throw them in a place because everybody needs a place, like independent living, whether it's supportive independent living or structured independent living for financial and overhaul of those kind of learning abilities. It could be somebody that is actually going to need assistive living, and there's going to be people that are disabled and going to need a whole lot more care. So we need to kind of look at all of those avenues as we're trying to house people, so that they don't become precariously unhoused again, because we haven't actually looked at them as a whole human and what their needs long term are going to be, and suit that. I mean, I've had a lot of people, especially social workers, say to me, you know, that person might have been housed already, but they denied this. Well, I'm sorry, but that person is a transgender, and now you've tried to put them in a male's home that she doesn't feel safe with, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and other health concerns too. I mean, when you're talking about colostomy bags and colitis and all these different things, there's certain types of housing that is just not going to be appropriate for those people, because they don't want to be in a cot directly next to somebody. So I think those tiny house projects would be beneficial for us to continue on with, just for those privacy reasons and for those healthcare conditions to be taken care of. But I do agree with what you were saying about them getting out of the house and, you know, going in for meals and stuff like that. But I do propose continuous, like, evaluation, like what we did with our place at City Hall, was have everybody come for meals. And I mean, they would get angry at me and, no, I don't want to leave my tent. I don't want to come for dinner or whatever. But it was the only way I could actually manage who was there, how long I'd seen them, whether I needed to check on them, because a lot of substance use disorders and a lot of different things go on down there. You don't want somebody to go missing for too long without being checked on. So yeah, I think somebody to check in on those people on those regular times a day, especially while they're in those tiny home situations, is really important too. And we need to reinforce the value that you're important, you matter, and those wraparound services are for you, because they need to work for you, and we need to make everybody in Canada feel like they're just as worthy and just as special to deserve all these services. And I know a lot of the people on the streets don't feel like they deserve a lot of things because they have mental health, or because they're suffering through substance use disorder, or they've been incarcerated. But I think reinforcing a lot of the fact that they are worthy will help us with a lot of those other things as well, to try to help.
Yeah, you know, we have a question coming in, and it's about you know, the homelessness motion that, you know, Barrie City Council passed last year. And, you know, this discussion is more about the policies and, you know, what can be done, rather than naming individuals. But the question is more about, I think it's tied to the community and awareness. And one side is, the questioner asks is, how can they even do that, you know, outlaw charity? So I think this is tied to, you know, the next point I wanted to make about community and awareness on one side, and then the interest of the business community, which are in focus. Because right after that, we had a community safety meeting in Barrie, and during that meeting, a lot of businesses, you know, came in, dozen or so, and their complaint was like, we do not want, you know, homeless population in downtown. So it was not about the solution as of what to do with them, you know, how to take care of the issue. The focus was just get them out of the city. And then the question, you know, is focuses on how they can outlaw charity and outreach. So, you know, I want to go to Christine for that. So would you like to talk a little bit about the community and awareness, especially the stigma that, you know, you always refer to when it comes to mental health and homelessness, and, you know, this attempt to outlaw charity and outreach, you know? And we of course do not want to, you know, talk about the individuals in Barrie, but as a policy of the council whole.
Yeah, so they couldn't really do it, and they realized they couldn't do it, and so that's why they backed down, because it is a violation of Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's illegal, and that's our top law, right, of our country. There are a lot of bylaws on the books in communities across the country that are illegal if they were challenged but nobody ever challenges them. And so that's why they stick. So if it's part of our job as advocates to actually, actually like challenge those things. And if we don't challenge those things and educate people that this is illegal and this cannot happen because this is against our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, then we're not doing our correct thing, right? Because if we didn't stand up to that, it would have just got pushed through council, and then people would have just stopped caring for each other. Like, that's basically what it was. It was a law to make it illegal for the community members in Barrie, the city of Barrie, to care for each other. It said that we were not going to be allowed to give out a bottle of water, food, anything that could be used to shelter a person. So that could be like an umbrella, that could be a tarp, a tent, anything like that. Like, it was just such an inhumane bylaw to even be proposed. And someone had to stand up and say, you know what, this is against the law. And so that was really the purpose of us camping out at City Hall, was to bring national attention to it. And we said, we need some human rights lawyers to help us here in Barrie. And they did. They came, and the federal housing advocate actually said, this is illegal. This can't happen.
That, that it's illegal. That it's illegal. It violates under your Charter of Freedom. But at the same time, you also mentioned that there have been cases where the laws exist.
Yeah,
right?
there is laws exist, and in Barrie right now, and in communities across the province and the country, they're evicting people from encampments, even though that has been ruled illegal. But unless people go and challenge it in court, they're just continuing to do it because they think they can get away with it, and people are letting them get away with it. And that's our job as advocates and as community, to stand together and challenge them on those things.
No, that's so. When it comes to, we have a couple of other questions coming in. One is from Graham, and he wants to know, what can we do collectively, to to demolish, this system, what we can do collectively to address the problem of homelessness. Angela, you wanna take that in the beginning?
I think we just need to keep advocating and keep watching for whatever's coming up in our councils, council meetings, city efforts, looking at the housing initiatives that are going on, looking at your numbers and finding out how good people are doing, and looking at your encampments to really see what they're looking like. Are they healthy encampments? Are they providing them services? Or are they dangerous encampments that don't have services and that people are getting sicker and not well? And advocate for those things, and keep writing letters to your mayors and to Doug Ford and everywhere that you possibly can think of to get these initiatives going. And school boards, talking to environmentalists, because you know what, encampment sweeps create a lot of garbage, and it's unnecessary garbage, and it's garbage that the society and the community is going to have to replace, because we don't want to see people displaced. We don't want to see people without a tent. We don't want to see people without a home, period. But we're going to buy them or get them new blankets. We're going to get them new shoes. So these are things that are just going to come back up in the community as garbage in these sweeps that they consider garbage, rather. And advocate for the fact that this is not garbage. These are people's things, and we can open or help them to advocate for places to get their laundry done. Like what Christine has done in Barrie has been like something I've been working on here in Hamilton that's been extremely hard to do. So we can save a lot of that garbage and have a lot of those different organizations looking at it, because I think sometimes we look at it like it's a homeless problem, but it's really not just a homeless problem. It's actually a society problem. It's an environmental problem. It's a humanity problem. It's a healthcare problem. So I think honestly drawing in all of the services in all of those directories and saying, you know what, no, it's not our siloed problem. It's actually all of our problems. And we all need to work together at this and recognize for our communities, for our planet, for our healthcare system, that everything that we do for our vulnerable society is going to change the impacts that it has on our society as well, and create that community instead of this fear of who homeless people are and why they're there and what their stories are. Instead of worrying about that, we're worrying about the community itself as a whole, instead of each person and the fear of why they're homeless.
So can I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
So like about what we can do is like, I just want to highlight the march. So we are having this conversation in the lead up to Provincial Day of Action that we are having, where advocates in communities across the province, including all of our communities, but some other communities as well, are going to all march in our communities to bring awareness and to bring people together that care about these issues. And it's all going to be happening at the same time. And so I think when we use our collective voices to organize days of actions like this, it has more impact when it's not just, you know, Christine and Barrie or Angela and Hamilton, but when it's like, you know, 6 or 7 different communities all coming together addressing the same issue, that can have more political power and sway, and it leaves a bigger impact. So I just, anybody that's watching and listening that wants to participate in our day of action, we welcome that participation.
Yeah. So Stephen, so this is the question was from Graham, that, what we can do to demolish the system, how can people work with each other?
Well, I think it has to start, personally, it has to start at the top. And that, by the top, I mean the government. And whether it's provincial, local, or federal, one of the biggest problems, and it's the pink elephant. Nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. Is one of the reasons that we're having problems with housing right now is the immigration that we've had. We've opened our borders to whoever wants to come in, and we're not building houses to accommodate. And now, we brought in, I don't know how many million people, and we don't have the housing. So if we're going to bring in more immigrants, and I'm not saying close our borders, please don't get me wrong there. But if we're going to bring in immigrants, let's have housing for them, because we're bringing them in and we're having more and more immigrants ending up on the streets. And we have to protect them. We have to protect ourselves. So if we're going to do anything, we have to make sure we have the proper housing for them. And what can we do as a society is take care of the people out there. If you see a person on the street that's homeless, buy them a coffee. Let them know, like Angela says, that they matter, because we do matter. I've been out there and I've had people come up to me. I was smoking at the time, and one gentleman one morning, and I'll never forget him, came up and he put $5 on the table at a Tim Hortons and a package of cigarettes. We were allowed to smoke in the restaurant at the time. And he says to me, now you have $5, you have your coffee for the day and something to eat, and you have your cigarettes. And I will never, ever forget that guy, because I was at one of the lowest points ever. It was not long after that I attempted suicide. So I know where I was, and I thank him to this day, because he gave me that little bit of hope. And I think what we have to do is give hope to our homeless and give them a hand up, because the more that we give a hand up, the more that they're going to pay back. And we have a lot of people in our homeless shelters and our homeless encampments that are worthy and viable once they get their feet back on the ground. And you have to remember that most Canadians right now, I've read that The majority of Canadians right now are one paycheck away from being homeless. And just think of that, one paycheck, because we lived above our means. So it could be you tomorrow. It could be me tomorrow. We don't know. So if you don't want to be cast down and frowned upon, why don't you take care of the people today before they're out there? And the ones that are out there, give them a smile, shake their hand, and tell them they're worthy. And you're going to make a difference in their day, but you're going to make a hell of a difference in your own.
Yeah, and then just quickly, Jenna asked about, are there any London tiny home projects in London? So whatever research I did on London, there is one project I believe coming up in London, Ontario. At the same time, there's one big project coming up in St. Thomas, which is not far from London. And Scott Graham Scott would like to say something, so we'll have him. Shortly he will join, and he also wants to say about his experience, but before that, just quickly I want to we are moving towards the last half an hour of our discussion. So just quickly about the policies. Recently federal government in the budget announced multi-billion-dollar incentives for housing. Provincial government announced more homes built faster act. Jenna just wrote a comment that in St. Thomas is beautiful. More homes built faster act 2022. So in the last few years there are a lot of initiatives from the governments are coming up. And just briefly about Stephen's point about immigration. I'm being a recent immigrant, and there are a lot of student immigrants as well. And one of the things that we forget about, student immigrants is the obscene amount of fees they pay, and oftentimes that's the reason for them to having to live in those poor condition. And the vilification of and I'm glad Stephen made his point clear about the immigration, that he's not against the immigration, but providing sufficient housing for the immigration. I think those are I'm glad that he made that distinction clear, is what the services that that are needed when Canada is welcoming more people. So this in light of these immigration changes, in light of federal and provincial budget, how do we how do you people see the initiatives? Are they sufficient, falling short? What needs to be done more in that sense? Angela, you want to chime in on that?
I think that there's a whole lot more that can be done. And with the federal government and what they've done for Hamilton, a lot of discussions have come forth, a lot of great ideas, and a lot of really awesome initiatives. But the problem is there's a lot of NIMBYism and a lot of pushback. So a lot of the projects have already been denied. And that's what ended up landing me at City Hall, was because I was like, no more. They can't keep denying every single project. And I mean, they have done some amazing work when it comes down to renovating some of the old buildings that were shut down, but it's not enough. And we know that in Hamilton alone, there's almost 2,000. I would actually say that there's more than 2,000 people that are precariously housed or not housed at all. And a lot of the people in Hamilton don't have the ability to be at these encampments and stuff. The environment is just not realistic. Somebody that has disabilities, where they have to get somewhere to a shower, they need somewhere for the bathrooms. So a lot of these people are just sitting on benches or sleeping in a blanket wrapped in a tarp. So I mean, I don't think that the city has really opened up a lot of that. I think they've opened up a lot of ideas, but they've shut down all of the ideas except for this one that's coming forward. And again, it's going to take a long time, and there's still a lot of pushback in the community that this vote was vetoed by Andrea Horwath. So
yeah, Christine, you have also went to Ottawa a few times, to take part in the protest and rally. So, what has been your impression of these various initiatives?
Well, I think they repackage a lot of their programs and they give it a new name and stuff like that, and it's for political points. None of the governments are living up to their responsibilities and their duties as our government, to provide housing for people. The government needs to get back into the business of housing. I think we need social housing, which is almost like a dirty word to say social housing nowadays, because the government stopped building social housing, like many years ago, which is why we're in the crisis we're in now. They like to throw around the word affordable housing and designate a certain amount of money in budgets and stuff like that to affordable housing, but we need to do away with that word, because the definition of affordable housing, it's affordable for who? I mean, if we look at what the definition of affordable housing is, it's where they take the medium income for that community, and anything that's 1/3 of that is deemed affordable housing. So in Simcoe County, the median family income, last time I looked it up, was $90,000. So anything that is $30,000 or less would be deemed affordable housing. Is that affordable for somebody on OW, somebody on ODSP, somebody that is making minimum wage, somebody that is working in the gig economy, a senior on a pension? It's not affordable to any of the people that are currently homeless or at risk of being homeless. So we need to do away with the term affordable housing and making room in budgets for affordable housing, because we need to talk about the reality. What we need is a variety of different types of housing. We need rent geared to income. We need supportive housing. We need, housing for, seniors that have disabilities and stuff like that. Like, there's so many different people we are failing, and what the government has done is shirked its responsibility for too long. They're giving money to developers, and developers are getting rich on making these developments and designating a certain number of units that are supposedly affordable, but they're not affordable to the people that we need them to be affordable for. And so I'm going to say that all governments are not doing enough. They've shirked their responsibility, and they need to start living up to their responsibilities to uphold that housing is a human right and ensure that every Canadian has a safe place to call home.
And of
That's
course,
my
we haven't.
Sorry.
Of course, we haven't talked about the indigenous. The homelessness crisis, the mental health crisis. Is far higher among indigenous people. Just given the trauma of the colonial history, the trauma of the residential schools, and unfortunately, we are supposed to be joined by one indigenous member, but due to health concern, they could not join in. And then Jenna Spitfire Smith just commented about the same, that the indigenous people suffer a lot more due to government's policy, and there is need for more things need to be done. And hopefully in the next panel discussion, we'll have an indigenous member join in. And just about we'll have Scott Graham Scott join us in a few minutes, but I just wanted to ask about the future direction, like looking forward, what policies, approaches, technologies do you think we can have, or that can help address the homelessness crisis? Stephen, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would like to say about, I think I'm from Quebec originally, and I've been up here 24 years. And one of the things that always bothered me about Ontario is we don't have proper rent control. And so, like we were talking before about rent evictions, in Quebec, for example, you could do rent evictions, but you had to give the houses back. And up here, We've seen them in Cornwall where the big big developers have come in, bought out major places, and we ended up with more homeless and people not being able to afford. Also in Quebec, they have a rental board, and I owned a couple of houses in Quebec, so I was not allowed to raise more than the cost of living per year to make it all right. Up here, I have a friend who lives in Cornwall, and all of a sudden she got a $300 a month raise in rent and can't go back on it. Nope, that's it. You're stuck with it. I don't know the rules on it because I'm a homeowner. I'm lucky. But I think what we have to have is more control, that people are not going to have their rents raised high enough that's going to put them out on the street. Like this person has 3 kids, and like that kind of a raise on her, and she's on Ontario Works or ODSP, I'm not sure, but she cannot afford this. So it's either she pays the rent and don't eat or whatever. And so we're going to end up with more people homeless. We have to get more control. As everybody is saying, the government is not holding up their end. And they all the levels of government got to start picking up the weight, because it can't be left up to the citizens to do all the heavy lifting. The governments have to be there. We get promises with this new budget coming out about all the homes they're going to build. Where are they going to get the people to build them? We don't have the trades that we had anymore, because we're not putting them in the schools as a start. We're not having these trades pushed out there, and it's making it too easy. We have to get the houses built quickly, but I don't see this budget that they've done going to do much good for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years even. And when you look at the cost of everything that's gone up, and I like to know why the cost of wood, for example, has quadrupled since COVID, because the trees are still growing at the same price. A little bit of rain and a little bit of sunshine, but yet, everything has gone up. Salaries have not gone up. So, but where's the government saying, wait a minute, you're gouging us? It's like our oils, they're gouging us, but the government say nothing, because the governments are collecting the tax dollars, but they're not giving it back to the people that need it, which is our most vulnerable. Let's get the governments off their buckets and helping them, and doing, instead of just giving lip service, do something. Let's see the money. What's that movie that was out with Tom Cruise? Show me the money. They used to say it. Well, show us the money. They could talk about the money, but we haven't seen the money. It's nice. Let's promise $20 billion for this. Where is it? We haven't seen it. Well, but we're going to give $20 billion to someplace else. Take our money, put it here in Canada. Let's get Canada running again. Let's get homes for our people, whether they're immigrants or people that's been here all their lives. Let's get them housed. And I don't care if it's tiny houses or containers converted into houses. Let's get our people off the street. We have the capability, but we got to get our government off their butts and doing something for a change instead of criticizing us. I'll get off my pedestal now.
Angela, what are the new approaches, technologies that we can apply to address this issue?
Well, I think now they could do like what I set up, obviously not like what I set up in Hamilton, but they could have emergency camps where people can go to that are suffering with just getting services, because I mean, that is half of the battle with Hep C and HIV and things that need to be addressed and need the medication to maintain. They need to be able to find these people, and their meds get stolen often, and a lot of infection and infection control would be really good for our healthcare system to be preventing a lot of these things, because what happens is they get extremely bad and then they get to the healthcare system, and then it's a lot of intervention, but the intervention is not actually necessarily practical because they're released with medication, and again their bags get stolen and things happen, and then they have to go back for medication. So absolutely everything that they have to do while they're on the streets is 75 times harder than what we would have to do. So even having like areas where there are common eating, showers, bathrooms, wraparound services, continuous peer support and community engagement, housing networks, mental health treatments, doctors, nurses, security, and the ability to distinguish between each type of housing that a person's actually going to need, whether it be supportive and independent living, assisted living, transitional living, the trauma of living on the streets and being in such dire trauma and within such dire trauma and a continuum of trying to survive. We need to help people build the structure and redevelop their community skills. So I think what I was talking about, I mean, it's not ideal. Don't get me wrong, and I'd rather them be in a place and in a home, but that's not going to happen right away. So if we can open the armories, build these camps, and just get people into these services that they need so they can look at themselves like they're valuable, like our society loves them. And when they feel like we don't love them, give them a little bit more, because you know what? That's what we need to get us out of here. The trauma and the suffering has gotten to the point of being so bad that we're challenging every trust venue. Every time somebody feels like they can trust somebody or a service, it's gone or it's removed or shut down. So, I mean, a lot of the services here in Hamilton are risking shutting down, and there's controversial things about whether some of those services will be able to be reopened, because it's all about funding and about a church or whether somebody allows them into their space, right? So that shouldn't be happening either. It shouldn't be whether it's they have room or that they can make space. We have to find space. It's not maybe, we have to. Like, this is a necessity. 2,000 people are on our streets in Hamilton. 1,000 people in Simcoe County. I mean, the little town of Midland, where I'm from initially and primarily, I mean, there's already 85 people on my list for there that I service, and I'm only there a fraction of time. So, I mean, all these different things can happen immediately, and I think it could happen to our society in a way that would make everybody feel involved and that they feel safe about what's happening.
Yeah, so the numbers are just growing. Like in the number I checked in London, Ontario is more than 2,000. In Hamilton is more than 2,000. Simcoe County, it's more than 1,000 now. It's growing exponentially. So Christine, I come to you about same the new approaches, technologies, and what can be done, and especially if you want to just also briefly talk about the report that came in last month, called upholding dignity and human rights, talking about the encampments, and the report also has some some suggestions. So what is your opinion, and if you can talk briefly about that report also.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a long-term goal is to get everyone into like safe, dignified housing, right? Like that they have their own place to call home, and it's safe and it's warm, and they have privacy, and it meets their needs, because each person's needs are unique. So we can't just have a one-size-fits-all solution to homelessness. We need to have multiple different strategies and different types of housing that are being built to meet the variety of different needs of the people that are experiencing homelessness and at risk of homelessness. But in the meantime, we do have people that are homeless and that are living on the streets. And so we need to address their needs and keep them safe, and make sure we're upholding their human rights and their dignity as well. And so encampments, as much as people do not like to see them and they hate walking past them, and there's a lot of stigma and misinformation about them, and so people fear them and they don't want to see them in their communities. They actually create community and they create safety, and we can't just keep on displacing people and moving them on and evicting encampments, which we see over and over again in our community. It's emotionally traumatic for the people that are being told to move on with nowhere to go, and they lose their stuff. They lose a lot of their stuff every time that they are displaced this way, and sometimes it's stuff that they can't get back. It's like treasures. Like, it would imagine someone going into your house and taking your family photos of your parents that are deceased, or their ashes, or something special that you saved from your child, and it's gone now, and that those things are irreplaceable. But like, people will think nothing of going into an encampment and just bulldozing everything, and just that's someone's home, and it's just gone, and they come back and everything they own is gone. And we're the ones that are on the front line that cry with them, and do our best to replace the things that are replaceable, like tents and sleeping bags and stuff like that. But the stuff that is irreplaceable, nobody can bring that back, and nobody can erase the trauma that comes with losing those things. And so we need to stop that. We need to stop treating people like they're not human. And it is against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to be displacing people this way. If there is not enough housing in a community, people have a right to make a house for themselves, to make a home, and to make a community for themselves. It's already been established in courts of laws across the country. And so that just needs to stop, because it doesn't help anybody, and it doesn't help keep our community safe. When you take away what little supports people have, that doesn't make your community safer. That makes it, people more pushed in survival mode, and more desperate, and less trusting of people in their community. And how does that help anybody in our community? It just doesn't. Right now, our police chief released a statement last week that they are going to be increasing policing and police presence in our downtown area to give the perception of safety. And that's what it does. It gives the perception of safety for the people that don't like to walk past people that are homeless, or people that have substance use issues, but doesn't make our community safer. If we put even half of the money into actually supporting people that are experiencing homelessness as we do into punishing them and criminalizing them, then we would be halfway there.
So what is, we have last few minutes. So I just wanted to get, as we are, waiting for a person to join in and share their experience. What are the, so as you mentioned, what we are spending on, criminalizing homelessness. If we spend that much money on solutions, we will be halfway through. So what are the areas you expect the spending, and what are the future plans that three of you have to continue addressing the issue, and working to solve the issues. You wanna go first, Angela?
Sure. I have a couple of different events coming up. I'm doing something on May 2nd, but that's because I was falsely accused of assaulting an officer, and I have to go defend myself, and that's not very nice, but that's part of, I guess, the role of advocating, is having to defend yourself when people didn't get their way with telling you to leave, because I didn't leave, right? So I am dealing with that, but we have like an anti-bullying rally going outside of the courthouse that day. Then I have on May 5th.
That's on May 2nd, right?
May 2nd, yes. Oh, May 2nd? Yes, May 2nd. And then May 5th, we have Bereaved Mother's Day. And it's also Red Dress Awareness Day. So we are going to do the Bereaved Mother's Day in the morning, and then we're going to join in for the Indigenous Red rest day in the afternoon. And then I have another event coming up on the 11th, which is Housing to Homes. And that's just a bunch of smaller grassroots organizations coming together to go out and do a serve for the community. And then, of course, this march that we're going to do from City Hall in and around City of Hamilton. I'm not going to say the exact route yet because I did apply to see if they would allow me to have a permit after City Hall. I thought I would give them the grace of saying no, and then we'll go the opposite direction because it's not option to not do it, right? So during the march, though, we're going to make a video. We have a friend of mine that's become a friend of mine from Hamilton encampment, Brian Bestow, and he does TikTok hip hop videos, and he does the anti-bullying song that was famous with Mr. Freedom in it. I can't remember all the words right at the moment, but that's pretty inspirational. And some other hip hop artists from Hamilton are going to join him. And we've tried to get some different types of artists to come out to try to collaborate as well, but we haven't heard anything about that. And we're just really trying to get a lot of the politicians to feel comfortable coming out to the walk and joining us and recognizing that the things that we're doing isn't just for the homeless, but it's actually for our community as well, because we all want to be part of a solution, and to be proud of the solution together would be the ultimate goal, and we are stronger together. So I just want to keep talking about it and telling people that we have these ideas and these now initiatives that can be implemented to make our community stronger and to make people believe in themselves that they can do it and they can get better and recover from the trauma of being unhoused, poverty, and substance use disorders, as well as mental health.
Yeah, and of course, you're talking about the End Homelessness March on Saturday, May 25th. It's from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's in London, Ontario, Hamilton, Barrie, and Timmins, and in these four cities. And before we just have the Scott to talk, Stephen, if you want to quickly mention about the future plans that you have about the
Hello, my
advocacy.
friend. It's fun.
Mike.
I finally figured this all out. Thank you guys all for giving me this experience and this chance to speak on behalf of the homelessness and everyone that's dealing with their issues, mental health issues, everything. My plan in the future is to simply just be there. I want to be there for everyone. I have, in the past 6 months, I'm gonna, off the record, tell you guys.
This is Scott. This is live on YouTube, so everything
Okay.
people can hear
Okay.
and listen.
Perfect. Excellent.
So we just
Okay.
want to
So,
be careful about what we say without naming individuals or without
well,
sharing any information that might
of course.
put you in
Well,
harm's way.
guess what, my friends? Scott Graham is here for you all. I have experienced an extreme loss. Fuck. In the past 3 or 4 months, I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost my pets. I lost my kids. I lost my wife. But that was all due to my addiction problem. I got everything back because I went to addiction counseling. I went out to help, and I am here to just simply talk to everyone that has been dealing with this kind of issue, because I'm not finished with my issue. I still have things to deal with personally, but with the other half, everything is okay. But you need to work on yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing
No,
your experience, Scott. We really appreciate you joining in, and I'm also glad that you are working on the issue. So just before that, Stephen, would you just quickly wants to share what plans you have in the future when it comes to advocacy?
Well, I'm going to be very boring compared to Angela because I don't have nearly as much going on as she does. Um, I'm going to keep on doing the dinners on Saturdays at the Agape Center here in Cornwall. I do it every second Saturday with my wife, and I found out the day before yesterday that we are going to be starting to do them on Sunday also, which means that and all our homeless and our less fortunate in the area will be able to eat 7 days a week rather than up to October last year. All the food banks closed at 4:30 on Friday, and so nobody ate, and nobody ate for the weekend. The group of us got together and made it happen that they got fed on Saturdays and they had a bag lunch for Sundays. But like I say, I just heard the couple of days ago that starting soon, they're going to be having a meal on Sunday also, which is amazing. That nobody deserves to go hungry in our country. We have enough food. We have enough of everything. We should be making sure that everybody eats. And I'm going to keep advocating for men's rights. You know, my whole life has started taking care of men and making sure that men had someplace to go and someplace to be safe. And I will also be keeping going for our homeless because they need all the support they can get. And until you walked in your shoes, don't criticize them. You were talking before, I think it was Christine talking about the fear, and I think maybe about even Angela, about the fear of living on the streets, a fear of everything getting stolen. The 3.5 months I spent homeless, I don't think I slept a night. I used to sleep during the day because I was too afraid at night to sleep rather, because you didn't know who was going to come in the dark. So take care of our homeless. I'm going to be there. If we get another encampment this summer, I will be down at the encampment seeing what I can do. But I'm hoping we could keep them off the streets and as much as possible, because God willing, He'll give me the strength to do whatever I have to do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christine.
Yeah, so I don't have any upcoming events other than our March. So we're really focusing on that and trying to really make it a community event. So I'm all about there is no us and them, there's just us, and we are a community, and the power of community when it comes together. So I'm hoping to see as many people as we can come out to march with us. And our march is actually going to continue on until 1:00 because we are ending ours with a community picnic at Heritage Park. So we're just inviting everybody out to come and march with us and come and share a meal with us and just get to know your neighbors, because there is no us and them, there's just us. And besides that, I'm continuing to do what I do with my boots on the ground, just care for our beautiful neighbors in our community and feed them and love them and be there for them in the ways that I'm able to. And I'm going to continue with advocating to all levels of government like I do, and not just for people that are homeless, but that are marginalized and oppressed in many different areas and different ways. I really do. I'm part of several working groups and discussions and stuff like that across the province. I really do believe in the power of bringing people together and the power of lived experience and listening to different voices and just coming together to brainstorm and support each other, because this is heavy work, and if we don't have somebody that we can decompress with and share, not just the triumphs of the work that we do, but the struggles of it, it's hard to continue this work. So just really just continuing to build community in many different ways.
Thank you so much. I think that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Angela of Jordan's Life, Stephen of MentalK, Christine of Brian's Hope. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for the work you do and sharing your experiences and what we can do. And thank you so much, Sivan, as well, Voice of Men 360, for arranging the workshop. So it was a pleasure. Deepak, I'm a reporter with Simcoe Community Media. So you can of course find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Thank you so much. I believe now Sivan. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you a lot. Yes, of course, a couple of people, they want to join and then they want to share their thoughts or input actually, but unfortunately the time is, we planned 1.5 hours. Probably we can see you, you guys can join to our march, and then I want to give you a quick information about our march, and it will be on May 25th from Saturday, May 25th from 10 to 12 p.m. here in London, Ontario, and it will be in front of the City Hall. The way you can participate or support, connecting us with potential individuals, organizations, businesses, government officials, and more. Probably you guys can share our flyers and the details, and then even send us some promo video, just a short message, and then we can share it on our platform. So this way you guys can, everybody can get their voice. But yeah, Voice of Men 360 really want to appreciate each one of your input and also appreciation contribution. We want to encourage, actually, there are few cities joining. Barrie, of course, Timmins, probably Sarnia and Sarnia, sorry, and Ottawa. Hopefully they will be joining, and we are expecting more. So let's see. All right. Thank you, guest. Really appreciate your thoughts and inputs. Of course, there are so much we can do, but we still want to get more help, more support from the ground level. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Hugs.